On the media day ahead of this weekend's British Grand Prix, Max Verstappen was the centre of attention as rumours surrounding his potential move reached boiling point. Engulfed by the media and clearly fed up with the attention, Verstappen had little to add to a story that George Russell had blown wide open last week when he said that he hadn't received a new contract yet as Mercedes were negotiating with Verstappen. A lot goes on behind closed doors in F1, and we only ever see the hints of it, so when Russell confirmed that talks were happening, it created chaos. Now it seems that Red Bull's recent dominance has gained them many enemies as their rivals have weighed in on the situation, telling Verstappen that now is the time to leave. Even Lewis Hamilton has chimed in to tell Max he would have a better time at Mercedes. Today, I'll check it all out and talk about why Horner could be the ultimate victim of all of this, so don't go anywhere. Since McLaren finished their winter development last season and started contending for race wins with Red Bull, the two have turned into respectful rivals. Christian Horner and Zak Brown's relationship never descended into the bitter pettiness that Toto Wolff and Horner's did, probably due to a lack of a radio channel direct to the race director. But don't let the calmness of their public interactions fool you. The two are still fierce competitors. Zak will be more than happy to see the dramatic decline of the team who everyone expected to be his competition for both championships this season. Red Bull's drop in form has left both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships free for McLaren to seize, something they're doing a very good job of at the moment. Up until now, McLaren have been doing their talking on track, taking race wins and double podiums like they're in a different class. However, ahead of the British Grand Prix, Brown decided to offer some advice to Verstappen about his current team. The McLaren CEO has said that Max Verstappen is currently carrying the Red Bull team, claiming that the Racing Bulls would be ahead if it weren't for him, as we saw happening in qualifying last weekend. The Milton Keynes-based team has endured a difficult 2025 so far, with Verstappen's 2 wins its only claim to bragging rights, amid difficulty finding stability in its second seat, with Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda both struggling to keep up. Verstappen is the only driver who has so far been able to cope and manage the tricky RB21 machine, and has been the only realistic challenger to the dominant McLaren team so far. Red Bull have managed to spin their results at times to make their second drivers look bad. Perez and Lawson lost their jobs due to Horner claiming they were the problem, and Tsunoda likely would as well if there was a reasonable replacement ready for him. However, the truth has become clear as the season has progressed. Red Bull have destroyed their car in a year and a half since Adrian Newey left the team, and Max Verstappen has been compensating for its failings for far too long. Ahead of this weekend's British Grand Prix, Brown said that if Red Bull were without Verstappen, it would be currently languishing behind its junior outfit in the championship. Red Bull would be behind the Racing Bulls, he told Sky Sports News. They've done a great job and have a great racing car. I think Max is carrying them at the moment. It's hard to argue with Brown's assessment. Since Tsunoda was promoted to Red Bull at the Japanese Grand Prix, he's scored 7 championship points. In the same time, Lawson has got 12 for the Racing Bulls and Hadjar has 21. You replace Verstappen with any human driver, and Red Bull are being consistently outscored by the Racing Bulls. Luckily for Horner though, Verstappen isn't human. Brown went on to admit the prospect of going up against a Mercedes team with Verstappen would be a major challenge. That's a bit scary, he told ESPN ahead of this weekend's British Grand Prix. I think Mercedes is clearly on a forward trajectory. Red Bull clearly is not at the moment, and Max is an unbelievable talent. So Max in a Mercedes has some pretty serious competition. How Red Bull will compete in the future is uncertain, and not just because of how they're performing now, but how they will handle making their first ever engine in 2026. But more on that later though. After the 2021 F1 season, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were bitter enemies. A lot's happened since then though, and the two have never really been in direct competition with each other again. Tempers have cooled, people have moved on, and Hamilton has actually offered Verstappen some sensible advice over his pending move. Before I talk about that though, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the news and analysis from this weekend's race, then make sure to press that like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. Last week, Mercedes boss Toto Wolff confirmed he was exploring the possibility of signing Verstappen in the future, leading to speculation the 4-time champion could leave Red Bull for Mercedes. Hamilton, who switched from Mercedes to Ferrari over the winter, said he would wholeheartedly recommend driving for Mercedes if Verstappen asked for his opinion. Of course, he told reporters ahead of the British Grand Prix, "If anyone was going to ask me about Mercedes, it's an amazing team, also with the passion. They've got a great personnel. It's a great factory, great environment to work in. I'll be interested to see what happens." Lewis knows better than anyone what Mercedes can do in the engine department. After joining the team in 2013, he made use of Mercedes' incredible split-turbo engine to dominate the sport for the better part of 8 years, a period during which the Silver Arrow's power unit was always the best on the grid. Especially in the early years of the 1.6-litre V6 turbo hybrid engine regulations, Mercedes were utterly untouchable due to their massive power unit advantage. Due to their performance in 2013, their opposition to any regulation changes, and reports from within the team, many expect Mercedes to begin the 2026 season with one of the best power units again. Hamilton did also praise Verstappen's current team and said he regretted once talking down his former rivals. I mean, he's coming from a great team, and I think many years ago I was asked about Red Bull. I think I was just so die-hard Mercedes at the time, and I remember saying something about Red Bull being only a drinks company. I always regretted it because I was just saying that because Mercedes at the time was just great. I was really just trying to G up my team, but the truth is, Red Bull have been an incredible team. There's so many people there that are exceptional, and they've dominated for years. It's a tough decision for Verstappen to make. Does he stick with a team that gave him his start in F1 and provided him with a car that won him 4 Drivers' Championship titles? Or does he jump ship now things are going catastrophically wrong and go to the heavy favourites for the new regulations? Verstappen's impressive performances in a car that is midfield at best is rightly earning him many plaudits and proving the long-said joke that he would win in a Sauber. If he leaves though, Red Bull are left without a top-tier driver, with no one in their pipeline ready to replace Max, and with a world of uncertainty over what their 2026 car will be like. Will the engine be any good? Can the design team, who've turned the most dominant car in F1 history into one of the worst on the grid, handle the designing of a car for the new regulations? We just don't know, and that lack of confidence in the team is a problem, not just for the fans but for the Red Bull board. It was a late Dietrich Mateschitz and Helmut Marko who once gave Horner, then a relative nobody, the chance of a lifetime. He has created magic with Red Bull, but that fire is now faded. Mateschitz may have had endless faith in Horner, who did repay it, but he isn't there to give that faith anymore. Now it is the board in Austria that runs the company, with some input from the Thai-based majority owners. When Horner's job was on the line early last season due to allegations of improper conduct with a team member, it was the Thai owners that saved Horner when the board wanted him gone. At that time, Red Bull had just produced the most dominant season in F1 history though. He had a lot of favour on his side. Since then, things have changed at Red Bull, and Horner has to take the blame for that. The brain drain, meaning the loss of technical genius from Red Bull's Milton Keynes factory, has been crippling. It began in 2022 with Dan Fallows, head of aerodynamics, who left for Aston Martin. In 2023, chief designer Rob Marshall joined McLaren, and whether or not you believe that he's been a part of that team's rise to dominance, the timeline broadly aligns. Sporting director Jonathan Wheatley, now team principal at Sauber, was another key figure to head for the exit. And perhaps most significant of all, Adrian Newey, the brilliant technical mastermind without whom Red Bull's F1 triumphs would never have been possible, despite the tall tales that Horner has been trying to spin. Horner's inability to retain high-level staff members is undoubtedly a large contributor to their current poor performance. More than anything, Red Bull wants to win. They spend unimaginable amounts of money sponsoring the best athletes around the world, from mountain biking to surfing to athletics and motor racing. Being Red Bull sponsored means being the best. The company pours hundreds of millions of dollars into their F1 team on a yearly basis, and at the moment, the results don't match that investment. They will not tolerate it for long, and if Horner loses arguably the best motor racing driver in the world, it'll be the final nail in his coffin as Red Bull team principal. Do you think that he can survive the fallout of Verstappen leaving? And do you think Verstappen will actually leave? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, then make sure to check out our merch store at f1reverse.com to get yourself some sweet F1 inspired gear. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.